Hi everyone, this is John from Greener Partners, and I'm really excited to share this stinging nettle that's growing in my backyard. This is a great time of year to harvest stinging nettle in Philadelphia because by May, usually the nettle starts to flower. And it's not really good to use for tea or for edible nettle leaf at that point because the chemistry of the leaf starts to change and it becomes something that we can't really eat. It becomes very tough and it has some compounds in the older leaves that can be irritating to the bladder and the kidneys. So it's really important to just use the tender top of the young leaves before they flower while the nettle plant is still very short. So the easiest way to identify stinging nettle is through its characteristic stingers and the sensation they bring when you touch them. It feels a little bit like a bee sting or like fire ants, and you can see these little hairs coming out of it. Those are actually stingers. And the stingers act through formic acid and histamine and other compounds that are disarmed when we boil them. The cellular structure within them is disarmed and they no longer will produce that pain when we cook these leaves. So I cook it for about 5 minutes and then let it sit in the hot water for about 5 more minutes. And then it's really good as a tea for helping to relieve symptoms of allergies. Also, it's really nutritious. It has lots of iron and vitamin C, and it has phenolic compounds that really help our bodies to clear out toxins that have accumulated throughout the winter. So it's a great spring tonic. But it's important to boil them so that we don't have the stingers still on them. And we also have some great plants here that can actually be used, these blue flowering plants. This is comfrey. And it's really interesting because we have it growing right next to the nettle. And if we get stung by the nettle, the comfrey, if we just kind of squeeze the leaf a little bit, can help to relieve the pain from the sting. We also have some mint and other plants over here that can also help relieve stinging nettle stings and help to relieve the pain. So all we're going to do is we're going to take these top leaves here. And some people actually really like the sting, believe it or not. I don't mind it personally. Most people would like to avoid it. But it can be used to help if we have joint pain associated with arthritis or sciatica. Just a little bit of the stimulus of that little sting can actually help to bring blood flow to those joints and help to relieve some of the symptoms. But usually we want to avoid that sting. So I have gloves. I'm wearing gloves. And I'm going to take just the top few leaves. Let me show you so you can see a little more closely. So we don't want the ones that are lower down that are about 3 inches wide or more. We don't want to use those. We only want to use the top ones that are more narrow and still very, very tender. So I'm going to collect about 3 tablespoons of these leaves, just the top leaves, and add them to this water here to rinse them. And about 3 tablespoons will be enough for about 3 cups of tea. In addition to relieving allergy symptoms, it can also help to maintain our blood sugar and avoid sharp spikes and drops in blood sugar. And it has helped me personally to avoid fatigue. And because of its iron, it can be used to treat anemia and help to replenish the blood after blood loss. So, let's see. I got a couple of the bigger leaves in here I'll take out. That looks good. I'm going to make sure there's no pieces of the stem on it. And then I'm just going to bring it inside and boil it for 5 minutes. Let it sit for 5 minutes. And then at that point, the tea is ready to drink, and the leaves can be eaten, like spinach or other greens. And if I had more nettle, what I would do is I would dry it, because since this is the main time of year to harvest nettle, we can, by drying it, then have a supply for the whole rest of the year. You can just set it in a cool place that has good air circulation, dark place so leaves don't burn, and let them dry out for a couple weeks, and then they're good to store in a paper bag or something like that in order to be able to have nettles to enjoy all throughout the year. And now, after letting these nettle leaves boil for 5 minutes and steep for at least another 5 minutes, I have some nutritious nettle leaves that I can actually eat. And I can use the liquid for tea. It's important to remember that whenever you're trying a new herb for the first time, it's really important to consult with a doctor or a professional herbalist to make sure that you don't have any conditions that are contraindicated for this herb. So, for example, blood pressure medication, blood thinning medication, pregnancy, and diabetic medication are conditions that are contraindicated, for which nettle is contraindicated. So be very cautious and make sure to study this herb and make sure that it is appropriate for your own body. And even if it is, it's important for the first time when you're trying a new herb to just start out with a little bit to make sure that you're not overwhelming your body with something that it is not used to. But generally speaking, it is a wonderful medicinal herb that has a very tonic effect on the liver and the blood, and is generally very nutritious as well. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I look forward to sharing another herb or edible plant in my backyard next week.